Stop everything. What you're about to hear will forever change the way you see your burnout. Society taught you that extreme exhaustion is a failure, a flaw. I am here to tell you the counterintuitive truth. It is, in reality, your most sacred rite of passage. In the next 15 seconds, you will understand that the day you fell to your knees was not the end of your strength. It was the only moment you were strong enough to let the persona die. This video is a map that explains why you broke and, more importantly, how to rebuild yourself from the only place that matters, your true center. If you've ever felt you were burning your own soul to keep others warm, pay close attention. Today, we will decipher together the day exhaustion reveals who you really are. Because you are not broken, you are being forged. Now, let's start our journey from where it all truly begins, in the crushing silence of total depletion. Have you ever reached that point? That day when getting out of bed feels like an impossible expedition, when the most complex thought you can muster is, what do I do now? Well, the first great truth about profound exhaustion is that it is not an accident along the way. It is a territory planned by your own essence. Imagine you are a house full of furniture, paintings, objects you inherited, bought on impulse, given by others. Extreme exhaustion is a gale that blows through every window and carries away everything that isn't nailed down, everything that is a facade. What remains? Only the walls, the floor, the structure. That is you. The rest was decoration. Stop for a moment and think. How many masks do you wear just to leave the house, just to turn on the camera in a meeting, just to say good morning in the family group? The mask of the successful professional, the perfect child, the always available friend. Each of these masks weighs a good few pounds, you know, and you carry them all the time. The day exhaustion brings you down is the day your arms, from carrying so much, simply drop the load. And then there's no way around it. The identity you built so carefully cracks on the floor, like a mirror. It may seem like a tragedy, but it's your greatest luck. It's the chance to see your own face, unfiltered. Look at your moments of greatest exhaustion as if they were a desert. A place seemingly empty, inhospitable, where nothing grows. But it's in the desert that the sky is most starry, because there's no interference from city lights. The essence of your personal authority, your purest dreams, your quiet strength, all of those are stars. But you never stopped in total darkness to see them. Exhaustion forces you to stop. And in that darkness, the reconstruction of your vision begins. You start to distinguish what is true from what was just a reflection of others' desires. Now bring this into practice. Next time that disproportionate exhaustion hits, not sleepiness, but that heavy emptiness, don't run for coffee or another distraction. Stop. Literally stop everything. Sit on the floor if you have to, and ask yourself out loud the simplest and most powerful question. What exactly am I trying to prove right now, and to whom? Whatever answer comes, write it down. Don't judge, just record. You will start to map the weights that are not yours. This is the first step toward the surrender of the character. And so, what happens when all defenses fall? When you stop fighting against the tide of this fatigue and simply let yourself float in it? Ah, my friend, that's when the door to the next level opens. Because when the persona collapses, space is born for something new. But be careful. This space will first seem frighteningly empty. And it is from this emptiness, this total surrender, that the next great revelation is born. Because emptiness is not the end, it is the ready stage. Let's talk about something society treats as the worst of defeats, but which I will show you is the most secret of initiations. The collapse. That point where the world falls apart and you think you failed. What a shame, right? Only no, you don't break because you are fragile. You break because you have an internal integrity that refuses to keep sustaining a lie. Think of a tree branch. It holds the weight of the snow. It bends, but doesn't break. Until one day the snow gets so heavy, so false for that branch, that it cracks. The snap is not the end of the tree, it's the relief, it's the surrender to the weight that did not belong to it. From that crack, the tree grows in a new way, wiser, working around the scar. How many snowstorms are you carrying? Expectations you embraced as if they were your own, fears you keep out of habit, obligations you accepted because you didn't know how to say no. Each one is a snowflake, individually, light, together, an unbearable weight. The day of the collapse is the day your internal system, your truest essence, stages a forced intervention. It's a enough from your spirit. Paraphrasing Carl Jung, to whom we owe this wisdom, you cannot enlighten a consciousness without first going through chaos. Your chaos is not a sign that things went wrong. It's a sign that the process has finally, truly begun. Here's a practical example from real life. Think of the person who works 14 hours a day, runs to the gym, keeps the house spotless, and a smile on their face on social media, a monument to productivity, until the day the body simply shuts down. A virus that won't go away, a back pain that locks up, a cry that explodes out of nowhere. The world sees it as a health crisis. I tell you, it's an initiation ceremony. The body is forcing the stop the mind refused to make. It's a rite of passage. The question that arises in bed, feverish, is the initiatory question. Why was I doing all this? So, what to do when you feel the collapse approaching? Don't fight it. It's counterintuitive, but it's the only way out. Instead of having another energy drink and pushing forward, do the radical opposite. Cancel 2 non-essential commitments this week. Just 2. Say you're indisposed. Don't give many explanations. And, in the time that would have been for those commitments, be in complete idleness. No phone, no book, no podcast. Sit and just observe the anxiety that surfaces. You will be practicing surrender on a small scale. You will be telling your system, I am hearing your message. This simple act is a powerful ritual of reconstruction of your authority over your own time. And when you stop resisting, something magical happens. The false identity, the one you called me, begins to dissolve. It's a scary process, yes. It's like watching your reflection in water dissolve, but it's only when the reflection disappears that you can see what's underneath the surface. What's at the bottom of that lake? What treasures, what truths did you keep there, away from the sun, because you thought they weren't worthy of being seen? The collapse is the invitation to dive in and retrieve them. And from that dive, a new way of breathing begins to emerge. Now pay attention to this, because it's one of the most neglected secrets of our time. Your exhaustion is not stupidity. It is not laziness. It is a deeply sophisticated biological wisdom. It's your body and mind making an urgent intervention because your soul has been set aside, gagged, and can no longer stand whispering low. The limit is a brutally loving teacher. It doesn't come with gentle words. It comes with a fist on the table, with a this far and not one step further. And why does it do that? To protect what is most sacred in you, your essence. Think of your entire system as a house. The soul is the fire in the fireplace, your source of heat and light. You, distracted by the world, started throwing the furniture one by one into that fire to keep the flame high and impress the visitors. Exhaustion is the fire alarm that goes off when you're about to throw in the last chair, the one you still use to sit on. What masks are you burning to keep warm? The always strong person? The one who never asks for help? Each of these masks is a valuable piece of furniture you destroy for momentary warmth. The limit is the voice that screams, "Stop burning the house down. The fire is already yours. It burns by nature. Learn to tend it with real firewood, not with your own furniture." This surrender to the limit is not failure. It's the most intelligent act of self-preservation you can do. It's you finally listening to the whisper that became a scream. Bring this into your week. You feel that headache in the late afternoon, that irritation with small things, that urge to disappear. Instead of ignoring it and taking a painkiller, practice listening. Stop for 2 minutes. Close your eyes, place a hand on your chest, and ask sincerely, "What do you need me to stop doing right now?" Honor the first answer that comes, even if it's "stop thinking about this problem." Get up and go drink a glass of water looking out the window. Change your environment for 5 minutes. This act, seemingly silly, is a peace treaty with your exhaustion. It's you saying, "I am here, I am listening." It's the beginning of the reconstruction of the internal dialogue. The world sells you the idea that limits are barriers that delay your conquest. I tell you, they are the guardians of your sacred territory. Imagine a castle. The high walls, the solid gates, are not to isolate the castle from the world. They are to clearly define where the world ends and where the kingdom of the true self begins. Without these walls, everything invades. Your energy, your time, your peace become no man's land. Authority over your life begins when you raise these walls with conviction and learn to say without guilt, "Not here." Exhaustion is the architect showing you where the wall is crumbling. And when you start honoring these limits, something curious happens. The feeling of burnout begins to change. It stops being a paralyzing fog and becomes a clear signal, a beacon, the 3 p.m. Fatigue is no longer a curse. It's a reminder to take 3 deep breaths. The insomnia is no longer an enemy. It's an invitation to grab a notepad and dump the thoughts you avoided all day. The limit, when listened to, stops being a wall and becomes a bridge that leads you back to the center, to your truth. And from that center, the vision of the next step becomes much clearer, including the step to understand that sometimes the only way out is through a fire that purifies everything. Here we come to one of those points few have the courage to face head-on, but which is absolutely liberating. Profound exhaustion is not just a sign of burnout. It is the gravedigger of the false self. It is the rite of passage that buries the person you pretended to be. And look, this character will fight tooth and nail. It doesn't want the farewell. It feeds on approval, the like, the wow, how do you manage? But when the life force dries up, there's no more way to sustain the fantasy. The actor faints from exhaustion on stage, and the curtain falls by force. And in the awkward silence that follows, who are you without the costume, without the script, without the applause? What I'm telling you is not cheap poetry. It's deep psychology. Carl Jung, one of the great thinkers of the human mind, spoke precisely about this. He said, "We do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making our darkness conscious." This process he called the encounter with the shadow. Your collapse, your extreme fatigue, is that forced encounter. It's the shadow knocking on your door and saying, "Enough pretending. Let's talk about the truth you are burying." The false self is the one who denies the shadow, who paints on a smile always. Your true essence is what accepts the pain, the weakness, the fear, and integrates them. The death of the first is the birth of the second. Let's take a common practical example. John is the successful entrepreneur on social media. He's always posting about the grind, hustle culture, having no schedule, but in private, he lives on anxiety medication and has panic attacks about opening email. His exhaustion is chronic. One day, a simple bank account error triggers a devastating panic attack. At rock bottom, he is forced to face who is John without the company, without the title, without the performance. What does he enjoy doing when no one is watching? Maybe it's painting or cooking or simply doing nothing. That is the beginning of reconstruction from essence, not from the mask. What can you do today to start identifying and surrendering this false self? Take a piece of paper and make 2 columns. In the first, write, "What people think I am." In the second, what I feel I am at my best and worst moments. Don't be afraid of contradiction. In the first column might be strong and independent. In the second, tired and longing to be taken care of. Just by looking at this difference, you are already starting the funeral of the character. This act of writing is an act of authority. It's you taking control of the narrative of your own identity. And when you stop feeding the false self with your energy, a huge space opens up. And here comes the most delicate part. This space will first seem like a frightening emptiness, a desert. It's natural to feel fear. After all, you've spent your whole life defining yourself by that character. Who are you without it? The temptation to run and build a new mask, a more spiritual or minimalist one, is huge. Resist. Stay in the emptiness. Allow yourself not to know. It is in this silence of "I don't know who I am" that your most authentic voice, whispered for years, finally gains volume. It will guide you to the next stage, understanding that this surrender did not leave you weak. On the contrary, it led you to your most solid point, your essential solitude. Now hold on tight, because we're entering territory that scares a lot of people, but is the source of all your true strength. When exhaustion crushes you and all masks fall, you will come face to face with an inexorable fact, one no one likes to admit. You are absolutely alone. Not alone for lack of friends or love, but alone in the deep experience of your being. No one, absolutely no one, can breathe for you, feel your fatigue for you, or die the small deaths you need to die. This solitude is not a condemnation. It is a geographical revelation. It's the map showing you, with a bright arrow, the location of the only source of rest that matters, the still center of your own being. Think of an ocean. You can be on a ship crowded with people, laughing, talking. But if you fall into the water, the dive is yours alone. The struggle to get back to the surface, the feel of the water, the panic or the calm, all of it is intimate and non-transferable. The collapse is you falling from that ship of social performance. And in the sea you realize you will never find rest by screaming at the ship that has sailed on. Rest is in learning to float in your own waters. This surrender to essential solitude is the first act of authority over your peace. It's you accepting that salvation is not an external rescue, but an internal skill to be developed. How do you practice this in your daily life before the despair of exhaustion throws you into the sea? Create a ritual of voluntary solitude. It can be just 10 minutes a day, but it must be radical. No phone, no book, no distraction whatsoever. Sit in a chair and look out the window, or close your eyes. The only task is to be with yourself. In the first few days, the agony will be enormous. The urge to get up, the mind firing off reminders. Breathe and stay. This is training for your spirit. You are saying, "I do not run from myself." This small act is a powerful foundation for the reconstruction of your identity. Gradually, that place stops being a frightening emptiness and becomes a safe harbor. And this solitude, once embraced, reveals its greatest gift. It makes you immune to the hunger for others' approval. When you connect with your own source of value, you stop begging for validation in the eyes of others. Your choices begin to be born from the inside out. You leave a job not because someone said it's bad, but because it drains your essence. You start a project not because it will generate likes, but because it feeds your truth. Authority sprouts naturally from this fertile soil of self-knowledge. You realize that, in the end, the only mandatory company for the rest of your life is your own. And that's good, because you finally start to be someone worth living with. But then, what arises when you stop fighting the tide of your own solitude and simply allow yourself to float in it? Here is the most beautiful transition. When you surrender and accept that you are alone on the journey of being, something paradoxical happens. You connect with everything in a deeper, less dependent way. Relationships stop being crutches and become conscious choices, And it is from this solid center, this surrender to your own company, that you are finally ready for the next move, the active movement of no longer fighting, the movement of laying down the weapons of an internal war that never needed to exist. And it is about this surrender as power that we will talk now. Here is one of the most counterintuitive secrets you will learn. True strength is not in lifting the weight, but in having the wisdom to know which weight you should, consciously, let go of. Surrender is not synonymous with defeat. Defeat is when you are forced to let go of something against your will. Surrender is when you, with open eyes, realize you are holding an anchor and decide to drop it so you won't drown. Your exhaustion screams just that. You are drowning in a war that is not yours. Stopping the fight, in this context, is the most strategic and courageous act there is. It's you stopping bashing your head against a stone wall to finally look to the sides and see there is an open door just ahead. A door that has always been there. How many internal wars do you finance with your energy every day? The war to be perfect at work. The war to please the family. The war to maintain an image on social media. You are the general, the soldier, and the battlefield all at once. No wonder you are exhausted. The day you surrender is not the day of the white flag to the world. It is the day of the ceasefire with yourself. It is the day you look at all these fronts, one by one, and ask, what do I actually gain by continuing this battle? What mask am I preserving? Surrender is the dissolution of your own internal army of criticism and excessive demand. Let's put this into practice with a concrete example you can apply today. Think of one thing you demand of yourself daily that generates a huge burden, but is, deep down, optional. Let's say the demand to cook an elaborate meal every day. The surrender could be, today, I surrender the need to be the person who cooks perfectly. I'll order healthy food or make something simple, guilt-free. Or at work, I surrender the need to answer all emails instantly. I'll set 2 times a day for that, and outside of them, I'm offline. Each of these acts is a small peace treaty. It is an exercise of authority over your own rules. It is the reconstruction of your peace from active choices of surrender. And what happens when you practice this strategic surrender? Something magical. The energy that was spent on the fight begins to be released. It's like closing dozens of apps running in the background on your phone. The battery lasts much longer. You discover there was a reserve of strength, creativity, lightness that was being drained to sustain useless conflicts. Your essence stops being the prize of a war and simply is. And from this state of non-fighting, you begin to perceive truth with much greater clarity. You are not the problem. The problem was the war you waged against your own nature. Now ask yourself this question. What am I fighting against today that, if I surrendered, would bring more peace than harm? The answer may be a powerful insight, and from this peace conquered through surrender, you are ready to face the next stage. Because once you stop pouring water on the internal conflict, a new kind of fire can arise. No longer a fire that consumes and destroys out of anger, but a fire that purifies, a slow fire that burns away the superfluous and reveals what is unbreakable within you. And it is about this alchemical process that we will speak next. Now imagine that your exhaustion is not an enemy, but a fire. A slow, constant fire that comes not to destroy your house, but to burn everything inside it that is flammable, false, unnecessary. Everything you accumulated in haste, out of vanity, out of fear. This fire of deep exhaustion is an alchemical process. It does not destroy your gold. It separates the gold from the dross. The essence of who you are, your deepest values, your quiet purpose, your resilient strength, is non-flammable. What catches fire and turns to ash are the masks, the fragile certainties, the borrowed ambitions. The process is painful. Yes, you will feel the heat. But in the end, what remains will be only noble material, ready for reconstruction. Think of a goldsmith working with metal. To purify it, he subjects it to intense fire. The impurities rise to the surface and are skimmed off. Your collapse is that crucible, that fire. The impurities are beliefs like, I need to be strong all the time, or my worth is in what I produce. When the fire of extreme exhaustion comes, these fragile ideas bubble up and show themselves. Surrender is the act of, with a tool, skimming them off. You look and say, this is not gold. This is fear disguised as ambition. It's insecurity disguised as perfectionism. And you remove it. What remains is your true metal, purer and more malleable than ever. How do you identify, in practice, what is flammable in your life? Do the fire test. Take a duty, a social commitment, a personal project that is draining you. Now, ask yourself this question. If a fire passed through my life tomorrow and burned this forever, what true and permanent part of me would be lost? If the answer is nothing, or if it's just the image others have of me, you have found an impurity, something that can and should be burned symbolically. A practical example, you're on the condo party committee out of pure inertia and feel like a hostage. The fire test reveals this doesn't nourish your essence, only your mask of the good neighbor. The surrender is you stepping down politely. That is purification. After the fire passes, you are left with a clean slate. It may seem devastated, bare, but it is the best landscape on which to build something new. It is from this soil cleaned of ashes, the ashes of old habits, old obligations, that conscious reconstruction begins. Now, you no longer build with whatever material appears. You build only with what withstood the fire, with what is exhaustion-proof. Your decisions begin to be guided by a powerful question. Is this flammable? Will it turn to dust in the next crisis? Or is it a steel pillar? This is the authority born of purification. And then, when you stop fearing the fire and start seeing its cleansing power, something changes. You stop running from exhaustion and start respecting it as an agent of transformation. Burnout stops being a sign that you are wrong and becomes a sign that something in you is right, is fighting to burn away the false. And from this respect, a new clarity is born. A clarity so sharp it can only be compared to the silence that settles after a great noise. A silence that is not empty, but full of meaning. And it is in this purified silence that the wisest voice you possess finally gains space to speak, and it has precise instructions. Well then, after the fire of exhaustion burns away the noise, what's left? It's not a dead emptiness, it is a living, deep, fertile silence. This silence that settles at the peak of your exhaustion is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of a voice you muffled with decades of distraction, obligations, shoulds. When your strength drains away, the mental cacophony, the lists, the worries, the judgments, loses its fuel and goes out. And in that forced stillness, the only thing that still has the energy to speak is your essence. It whispers, and its whispers are the clearest instructions you have ever received. It doesn't talk about doing more. It talks about being different. Think of an old radio full of interference, tuned to 1,000 stations at once. It's impossible to hear any music. Extreme exhaustion is when the power runs out and the radio turns off. The relief is instant. And, in the absolute silence, you perceive that there has been a melody playing in the environment all along, the bird's song, the wind in the leaves, that the radio's noise prevented you from hearing. Your intuition, your internal wisdom, is that ambient melody. It has always been there. You just needed to turn off the noise to hear it. This silence is the best mentor you can have. How do you invite this instructive silence into your life before reaching the point of collapse? Create forced shutdown zones. Choose a moment in your day. It could be the first 5 minutes in the car before starting the engine or your shower time. And make a pact. No external stimulus, no podcast, no music, no phone, just you and the silence. In the first few days, the mind will race. Let it. Observe thoughts like passing clouds without following them. Gradually, the mental noise subsides, and in these intervals ask, what is truly important right now? The answer that arises coming from calm, not from anxiety, is the instruction. It is your truth giving the coordinates for reconstruction. This voice of silence does not come in complex sentences. It comes with simple, clear impulses. Rest. Call her. Start. Let go. D. When you obey these impulses from the quiet center, something incredible happens. Life stops being a series of obstacles to be overcome by willpower and begins to flow. You act from internal authority, not external reaction. You stop swimming against the current and discover the flow. Decisions become lighter because you are no longer deciding based on the fear of judgment, but on the clarity of silence. Your identity solidifies not in what you do, but in what you hear and honor within yourself. And then, when you begin to trust this silence as your guide, a new kind of strength is born. A strength that does not shout, but that persists. A strength that is not spent in effort, but that renews itself in the pause. It is from this silent, fertile ground that the seed of the next great stage can germinate. Because you cannot rebuild a true life on the noisy ground of others' expectations. You need to rebuild from your own center, discovered and cleaned. And it is about this reconstruction from the center that we will talk now. Are you ready to build from a place that can no longer be shaken? Here is the great secret that all the exhaustion came to reveal to you. You do not get up from the bottom of the pit by rebuilding the same person who fell. That would be insanity. You rise from a new epicenter, a nucleus of truth you discovered in the depths. Imagine an earthquake. It destroys the fragile buildings, but reveals the solid bedrock beneath the city. Reconstruction is not about piecing together the shards of the old buildings. It's about anchoring everything in the bedrock you had never seen before. Every action, every choice, every yes and every no from now on is born from this center, or it is not born. Life ceases to be a performance for others and becomes an authentic expression of who you are. How do you find this center in practice? After an exhausting day, instead of distracting yourself with TV, do this simple yet transformative exercise. Sit and ask yourself, if all external pressure disappeared tomorrow, family opinion, debts, social expectations, what would I do with my time? How would I move in the world? Write down the first 3 answers that come, no matter how absurd they seem. They are beacons. Maybe one is, walk in the park with no time to return. Another, write that project idea without thinking if it will make money. These are not escapist fantasies. They are impulses from your essence wanting to express itself. Reconstruction begins with you scheduling a walk in the park this week or blocking an hour to write without judgment. This new center is not a place of selfishness. It is a place of sovereign authority. Before, your choices were like branches swaying in the wind of others' opinions. Now they become roots. You begin to filter everything through a non-negotiable internal criterion. Does this align with what I discovered I am in my silence? If a commitment drains your energy and does not feed your essence, you practice the polite and firm no. If an opportunity shines but requires you to become a caricature of yourself again, you let it pass. This is not a smaller life. It is a denser, more real life, where every action has weight and meaning because it was born from the inside out. And the beauty of this process is that it is organic. You don't need the complete plan. You only need to take the next step from the center. If the center says rest, you rest without guilt. If the center says create, you create without demanding immediate results. Little by little, like a city being replanned on the rock, a new life rises. more resistant to storms, better adapted to your true interior climate. The identity that emerges is not a rigid statue, but something alive that breathes, that can get tired, but that knows exactly where its rest is. It no longer fears collapse, because it knows collapse is just another way to find the center. But then, what happens when you live from this true nucleus day after day? You notice a radical change in the command of your own life. The opinions of others lose the power to sway you. Success and failure become feedback, not definers of your worth. You stop asking for permission to exist in your own way, and it is at this point that you reach the final layer of the revelation of exhaustion. You have not only found your truth, you have become the supreme authority over it. And this reconquered authority is the greatest prize of the journey. It is about this that we will close. This is the final destination of this entire journey through exhaustion, the reconquest of your sovereignty. After exhaustion reveals who you really are, something irreversible happens. You never again blindly obey others' expectations. Your energy, your time, your attention, all of it becomes sacred territory, and you, its unwavering guardian. You learn to say no from the deepest, most resonant yes you have ever given, the yes to your own authentic existence. This authority is not arrogance. It is the humble and powerful consequence of having found your center and decided to live from it. It is the courage to be responsible for your own peace. Think of a kingdom. Before, you were an anxious subject, running to fulfill the wishes of all the lords, the lord of professional success, the lady of family approval, the duke of social media. You ruled a land called me in their name. The collapse was the revolution. Now, you are the legitimate monarch. You do not rule with tyranny over others, but with firm authority over your own borders. A wise monarch does not open the castle gates to any army that appears. He evaluates, negotiates, protects. In the same way, you evaluate what deserves your energy, negotiate your time with clarity, and protect your silence and your peace. Reconstruction is complete when this posture becomes natural, unconscious. How to exercise this authority in the concrete world? Start with something small, but symbolically huge. Your schedule. Before accepting a new commitment, pause. Consult your center. Ask yourself, will this drain my vital energy or nourish it? Does this align with the truth of who I am now? If the answer is negative, practice the phrase, I appreciate the invitation, but I won't be able to commit to that. Don't over-justify. Don't invent elaborate excuses. A clear no is an act of authority and a gift to everyone because it establishes a true relationship. Another practice, set untouchable times for yourself. An hour in the morning or at night that is sacred to your essence, whether for reading, walking, or doing nothing. Defend it as you would defend a precious possession. When you live from this reconquered authority, the world may try to push you back into the old place. They will call your no selfish. They will call your rest laziness. They will find your new serenity strange. But here is the truth. You are no longer using their measuring system. You have your own compass, calibrated in the fire of your exhaustion and the silence of your recovery. The obsessive need to be understood by everyone dissolves. You understand yourself, and that is enough. Identity is no longer a question, it is an answer lived out in every choice. And so the cycle closes. The exhaustion that seemed a cruel enemy revealed itself as the wisest mentor. It did not come to destroy you. It came to take you back home, to the home of your own being. From today on, when fatigue knocks on your door, you will not receive it with panic. You will receive it with respect, as a messenger. And you will ask, with the authority of one who knows the territory, what have you come to remind me that I forgot? Because you know the answer will always point to the center, to the essence, to the life that is now truly yours. So we have reached the end of this journey. But this end is in fact only your beginning. You now have the map. You know that exhaustion is not an accident, but a geographical revelation of your essence. The question that remains, the only one that matters, is, what will you do with this truth? Will you go back tomorrow and put on the same masks, knowing they are flammable and will burn you again? Or will you, even if it's with a single small act of authority, begin the reconstruction? Will you cancel a useless commitment? Will you guard 10 minutes of untouchable silence? Will you do that paper exercise and look squarely at the difference between who you act like you are and who you feel you are? Life will try to push you back into automation. The world prefers you tired and obedient, but you already know too much. You have already seen the bedrock beneath the rubble. Ignoring this now will not be an oversight. It will be a choice against yourself. I want to know what your first step is. Comment below one thing, just one, that you will surrender starting today. It could be surrender the need to answer messages after work hours, or surrender the guilt for resting. Let's create a pact here in the comments. Your change inspires mine, and mine inspires yours. And if this content spoke to your spirit, if it touched a wound that needs to become a scar and then strength, then you cannot miss what comes next. Subscribe now to the Mind's Silent Echo channel and hit the bell, because in the next videos, we will move from reconstruction to action. We will talk about how to live from this newly discovered center, how to set boundaries without guilt, and how to turn this reconquered authority into a life that, in fact, has your face, your voice, and your rhythm. Exhaustion has revealed. The choice is now yours alone. Until next time, be at peace.